And with this, we welcome already our second speaker of the day. Luiza della Giustina da Correggio is a psychology undergraduate from the Federal University of Santa Catarina from Brazil, focusing on social psychology applied in different contexts. She is currently studying Social Museology and Anthropology at the Sapienza University and coordinating a project on belonging, territory, and art with young people in an eco-museum community in suburbs of Rome. She is passionate about using psychology to improve the quality of people's lives and create a more diverse, equal, and just society.
Hello. So good morning. Thank you all for your presence, and thank you, Philip, for your presentation. Do you hear me? Okay. So I'll focus on the theme, community as a heritage, dialogues between cultural psychology, territory, and social museology. But first, I would like to start my presentation with a real-life problem, because as Philip described me, I am a psychologist student, and we mostly deal with problems. So whenever someone has something that does not work as it should or needs more attention, here we are. And every time we study something new, we do it because reality demands more information and attention. So the story I would like to share briefly with you started a couple of weeks ago in one of the activities of my internship in the Eco Museum, which I will present later on. And I was chatting with one of the directors, who's a historian, and she recently received funds to work with teenagers on the story and the memory of the Second World War. And since then, she has been doing some laboratory activities and with those teenagers. And I was very, very interested in that work. So I was a little surprised to hear that most of the teenagers were not. So she described them as inattentive. Then I started to make some hypotheses. Is that generation less sensitive about culture and history? Perhaps. Maybe her lessons weren't that captivating. I know her, she's very good at what she does, so I don't think so. But then I remembered the territory and the context we were in. We were in one of the most multicultural, diverse neighborhoods in Rome, which is called Tor Pignatara. And then I start to think, perhaps it's a question of belonging. Perhaps they do not feel part of it. How does the territory manage the diversity that exists there? And how can we create belonging and community when dealing with so much diversity? So this motivated my work, and I would like to share the intervention that we developed thinking about those questions. The intervention is not happening yet. We still are in the planning part of it, but still I'd like to present as a way of dealing with that reality. So to start with, I would like to present this work and research that we have been doing in this Eco Museum, specifically in this historical periphery of Rome called Tor Pignatara, which was allowed by the partnership of my university in Brazil, which is here in the middle, and specifically this laboratory that studies educational and school psychology, the Eco Museum, which is here on the left, and then Sapienza on the right. And then the main themes they are motivating this experience are memory, territory, and social museology, especially the importance of protecting, promoting, and enhancing the territory's heritage to strengthen the sense of belonging, social participation, and the community itself. Therefore, the presentation will discuss the main theories involved, one example of possible intervention, and some of the implications of this work. But then I'll start to present, yes, this is the main contributions. Here you can see a little bit of this very, very complex field that we are building. And then the place where it happens. So I will present a little bit about Torpinhatara. It is an eastern suburb of Rome with a strong historical and multicultural character, embedded with diverse urbanization processes that contain diasporical politics, locally building, and identity politics, as quoted by my professor in Sapienza, Alessandra Broccolini. It is therefore a key territory for social, anthropological, cultural, and psychological processes that, to some extent, represent contemporary issues faced around the world. One of the main theoretical contributions is the Brazilian geographer Milton Santos, who states that the territory is not the territory is the ground plus the population. That is the identity, the fact and the feeling of belonging to what belongs to us. Therefore, it is not just a set of natural things that exist in that territory, or even those made by man, such as the mausoleum of Santa Helena or the aqueducts. The territory is all of this, and specifically the social relations that takes place there. Therefore, it is marked by power dynamics, contradictions, and multiple and multicultural experiences. In other words, it is polyphonic. There are a lot of different voices. And then the project takes place at one of the most active associations of the Quartiere, the Ecomuseum Casilino at Duas Lauros, which was created in 2012 as a reaction to an attempt of a real estate speculation. This was due to the initial mapping of the resources available in the neighborhood, which pointed to the presence of a range of potentialities so that it was necessary to think of a flexible institution that was capable of making those interdisciplinary dialogues. Based on territory, heritage, and population. And the Ecomuseum provides various walking tours on the area with specialized staff who focus on archaeology, urban planning and landscaping, anthropology and culture, cinema, and others. And more than just a museum, it is a space for study, research, and the creation of initiatives that focus on the territory, the ground, and those who live on it. And now in 2024, it was recognized as a UNESCO-accredited NGO for the preservation of intangible heritage and has been an icon institute associated since 2020. Therefore, valuing multiculturalism, belonging, citizenship, and social participation through an eco-museum, it is a great tool to attempt to safeguard and enhance a community's heritage, which means taking care of the whole territory. By excellence, eco-museums are institutions that express the community through heritage and vice versa. The first image is one of the walking tours. I really like her because you can see the aqueduct, which is something made by men, something seen, and also the shadows of people, so the importance of people. The second one is one of the closing activities of the School of Patrimony, Heritage, also in the Eco-Museum. So this is also some activities that has been going for a while in the Eco-Museum. Here you can see with some very important places of memory. So sensible to the problem I told you at the beginning, this project that we have been working on, the Laboratory of Belonging, Mapping, Walking, and Photographing, is an initiative that seeks to bring to this Eco-Museum the theory and method used in the laboratories that we have in Brazil. So the group of research that I mentioned before, the one that allowed me to come here, builds educational and cultural projects in an urban quilombo. I don't think many of you are familiar with this word. It is a word that comes from the Kibundo language and means community formed during the colonial Brazil by Africans and their descendants that were escaping from slavery. So this project is to enhance the Afro-Brazilian culture, belonging, and reinforcing its knowledges. But for this project in Rome, the aim is to hold those same laboratories on belonging and memory in this neighborhood of Torpinhatara. And the main objectives are to dialogue with territory and belonging with young people through the mediation of photography, to produce new relations of identification and otherness in the territory, and lastly, map places of belonging for those young people in Torpinhatara. The Laboratory on Belonging and Memory makes it possible to understand, explore, and broaden the meanings attributed by young people to that neighborhood. So as my professor Neva Jassis points out, cultural projects involving educational experiences in community contexts can guarantee human rights and build a pluralistic, anti-racist society that, above all, manage to sustain differences in intersubjective relations, as Karina was explaining to us the importance before. So regarding the public, young people are chosen because they're often not considered as a focus of intervention in an adult-centric logic. Also, youth is not understood as a universal characteristic, but rather as a social construction that includes plurality. And one example of that can be seen in the testimonies heard by my professor in Sapienza, Broccolini, how Bangladeshi 18-year-olds have a different speed compared to Italians, because there are economic needs that push them to take on more responsibilities typical of adulthood. So about the possibility of the participation of those young immigrants, or perhaps even those from second generations, it is important because they have some kind of invisibility in that territory, sorry. In this way, the workshops are privileged places to think about social and political relations. They're already so crystallized and give them a space to creation, authorship, freedom, and protagonism. Here's one picture of one of the laboratories done in Brazil. So just to give you some idea of what could happen, what could come out as photographies. That was made in a school by one of my professors. It was made by students, but the laboratory was held by my professor. So to conclude, I would like to initiate this reflection with you, that today's world presents us with so many questions and problems to be managed in community. We are all connected to a certain territory, and to take care of it, we need to be aware of its dynamics and specifically be able to sustain the differences that makes the territory what it is: the ground, the memory, the heritage, and specifically the people. That can be either our community here in the Lay Center, and we all know how challenging living in a community can be sometimes, but also our neighborhood, our parishes, and the planet Earth. Immigration, diversity, belonging, and other factors add challenges to our daily lives, but they are symbols of an attempt to get closer to others, to build bridges, which should always be done and encouraged. Here I've tried to present an initiative that seeks precisely this, seeks to see the community as a heritage, and by that create a dialogue. And I like to finish with this idea that resonates with the Fratelli Tutti, with this very, very beautiful image of the polyhedral society. It is formed by so many sides and includes so many diversity and so many different voices, but together create a complementing, enriching figure that where no one is useless. Everyone contributes with their own experience. Everyone is part of this territory, its memory, its heritage. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Luiza, for this wonderful presentation. Now, I'm sure there are a lot of questions, so once again, we'll gather 2 or 3 questions, and then our speaker will answer.
Thank you. I have 2 questions. Firstly is that because you're focused on this particular area of the city on this quarter, so are you considering moving there, or what's the interest? Why are you living here and not there? It's just one of the questions that came to my mind. And the second one is connected to the previous presentation, but I think you could give some practical examples, because there are communities, states, regions who do not want to build bridges, who rather destroy them, and sometimes even say the others destroy bridges, not us. So I'm wondering whether there is a community in this area, because it may be, it's one of the also most problematic, right, city quarters. So have you experienced something like that in your fieldwork?
Sorry, can you repeat the first question?
It was like, this is your focus, this particular place. So
Yes.
are you considering moving there? Because I understood you live here, not there.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you for your presentation, Luisa. I loved it. And could you explain a little more about your presence in the Eco Museum?
Yes.
It would be so nice to see, to hear about it. And why they choose to put this kind of activity in that museum? Thank you.
Can I? Okay. Okay. Thank you for the questions. I'll try to answer them. I'll start with the neighborhood and specifically if I would consider moving there. Actually, yes. Unfortunately, I'm going back home on February, so my time here is finished because I am more or less doing an Erasmus experience. So I cannot stay any longer, but I am considering in doing my studies here from the master's, and that would be a neighborhood that I am thinking of living, to be honest, because and also I think connecting to your other question, one of the things that I've seen there and really it really makes me want to be there is this very strong presence of the community. And it's not a present, it's not an artificial one. It is very artisanal. It's very made by specific people that are giving their time, their energy to be there. And I think that's something very precious. And so, yes. And some examples of this building bridges, burning bridges. Okay. One thing that really surprised me when I started to understand that neighborhood was the fact that if you think about a very cultural neighborhood, but also one of the most problematic ones, you can think that the immigrants are bringing the problem. That's what we think because this is the way that our minds work. But then I discovered that after, let's say, in the beginning of 2000, a little bit earlier, that neighborhood was even worse. They didn't even have light, like on the poles, public light. And then what made the neighborhood restart to have some protagonism or have attention were the immigration of the Bangladesh people. I see Christian is saying yes with his head. He lives there nearby in Pineto. I think he can say it better than I do. But that surprised me because we think otherwise. We think that immigrants build or bring problems, but there was the opposite. They were the ones who made the community grow. And now it is what it is because of it. Of course, with its problems, but it's alive, and before it was not. So about Sara and my presence in the Eco Museum and why would they have those initiatives. My presence there started a little bit as most anthropological studies. I was someone getting into a new culture, like a flânier or someone observing. So it started with that, and then I'm still like, this is something that everyone that deals with community psychology kind of struggles, because it's not a formal institution, so it's not that you have a role to perform. You are trying to find different possibilities to get in and perhaps present your idea. So this is more or less my situation now. I'm still trying to find ways to present that, to see if I can perhaps go from that direction or perhaps another one. But I am participating on pretty much all the activities that happen, trying to learn as much as I can, trying to understand how could they, from association that was built to prevent that problem, and now they are a recognized NGO, like that was a very interesting work. So I'm mostly learning and trying to understand how can I get in there. And then why are they doing this? Because they saw that they had things to offer that were not just physical patrimony heritage. Like I said, the mausoleo or the aqueducts. They had more. They have very important places, as Christian knows. about the resistance from the time of the Nazifascismo here. I don't know how to say it in English. So they understood that they had something more to give than just, let's do some tours. Now you can see the Colosseum. It is like this. It is, like the project is not the product of those walking tours. Are not the monuments itself, are the experience of the person there. Like, how can they learn from those monuments? How can they learn from those experiences? I hope I answered the questions. And thank you so much for your attention and your presence. Thank you.
Thank you, Luiza.